Good afternoon, Dimitris. How are you?
Good afternoon, Theodoris. I'm great in this after quarantine season here in Greece.
Today we have our first international broadcast with
With a person that fills the gap between continents. We have a broadcast through Australia with Caligula's horse lead vocalist, Jim Gray. Welcome to our show.
yeah. Thank you so
Good
much.
to be here.
Yeah,
Hey, thanks for
thank you
having
so
me,
much
guys.
for-
It's always
yeah.
fun to have a chat across time zones. You guys get
Yeah.
to have breakfast with me, and I get to sit in my house alone in my wife's office in the
Oh.
night time.
Okay.
That will be the title of the show. In my
In
wife's
my wife's office. Yeah, that's good. I'm not sure if that's a euphemism or not, but we'll figure it out, I guess.
about your next album.
I like it. I'm going to put it on the list.
Yeah.
So we have heard the album, of course, Right Radiant, which is excellent. It's, of course, my best Caligula's album
Oh, cool.
by far. Yeah. I totally adore it, even during the Tempest single.
hmm
And now Slow Violence is my best single of Caligula's Horse ever.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
It's been interesting actually, because there's been a lot of people that see the singly sounding stuff as something of a departure from, say, the more through composed, longer kind of, I'm going to say prog. I'm going to do this a lot tonight. Prog
Okay.
kind of songs that we do, and there's a lot of that on In Contact. So to follow In Contact up with stuff that's less prog has had an interesting response from people. So I'm stoked to hear that's your favorite. I think it's really interesting actually looking at how people have responded to Rise Radiant compared to something like In Contact, where the singly kind of sounding songs that aren't quite as I'm going to go, here we go again, we're going to do it prog, as the sort of the longer through composed stuff that we used to do in things like Graves, for example, off of In Contact. And also, I mean, there's stuff like that on Rise Radiant as well with Salt and The Ascent as well. And so, yeah, it's been really interesting to kind of see which songs end up people's favorites on the album. There's a lot of people saying that Salt is their favorite album. They're more of the kind of prog people. And, of course, the singly stuff has a lot of love for it too. So it's kind of cool to hear that that's your favorite. I enjoy that. Thank you.
So let's start with the top lists. We
Yes.
have to inform you that we are very strict co-presenters because every musician has a different opinion from us. So it's very difficult for us to accept it. But we may do something for you today. So if you
I'm ready
have,
to fight you if I have to.
yeah.
No fights. Okay.
If you have a chart countdown, that'd be perfect. From top 5 to top 1. I know that it's difficult, but let's try it.
So this is for albums. This like top 5. Well, it's funny because I refuse to do them in any order other than
I know.
sort of like where I wrote them down, because I have a little note on my phone here because my brain may be full of talk, but it's also full of holes. So I forget things. So it's interesting. When I was thinking about this 5 today and going like, what am I going to say? And I think that I wanted to kind of put like, yes, it's got some of my classics on there, but there are a lot of albums at the moment that I just can't stop listening to that are more contemporary. So I thought I'd throw some of them in there. So what I'll start with, we'll call it number 5, Meaningless.
Number 5.
Yeah, number 5. Yeah, 'cause I'm just going to keep my hands up here the whole time. Number 5 for me is the album Wonder Bloom, which is one word, by Becca Stevens. She's an American songwriter. I found Becca Stevens through, I think it was Family Dinner Volume 2 by Snarky Puppy.
That's
and
new
when
for
they were
us.
doing-
So, yeah.
Oh, cool. You should definitely check it out, man. It's wild. But yeah, they did sort of like a fusion-y kind of interpretation of one of her songs called I Asked. And it like, boom, immediate click, like lit a fire in me, that song. So I went and checked out all of her stuff. And most recently, she's released Wonder Bloom. This is very, very recent. And wall-to-wall bangers. Like I love it, and I keep spinning it at home to the point where it's become one of my 5-year-old daughter's favorite albums as well. She asked me to put it on. So,
Nice,
and why not?
nice.
Yeah, so that's one that's right up there for me right now.
So let's have a new start to our show. We'll have the YouTube video of the song down in the comments because it's very new for us. So we'll check it and we'll copy the link below our comments for our for our TV viewers to watch it as well.
So if you're gonna do one song from that, I would say maybe. Oh no, I'm not gonna. You're just gonna have to.
The whole album.
Yeah.
Yeah, start to finish. Nice one.
Okay.
Shall we go to imaginary 4?
Yeah, sure.
Number
Oh,
4.
I'm going to practice, otherwise I'm going to get the outside thing. Number 4, let's say Little Earthquakes by Tori Amos, which may in reality be my number 1. But it's one of those albums that is just it's so early in her career, but she was also nearly 30, I think, when it was written and came out. And I think because of that, it's so masterfully crafted, and her artistry is so beautifully developed that you're basically thrust into this what seems like an already constructed world of her music, and she's pushing boundaries and stuff, fighting producers at the time in the early 90s who were saying no one wants to listen to a hyper emotional piano driven female artist.
That was the thing. That was the thing then.
Exactly. And I think for me, there are a couple of moments, because I love putting like everything in context. Like I love thinking about being a certain person at a certain time, listening to that album, you know. And so this is 1992, I think. And, you know, you can imagine being a teenage girl in 1992, how different that would be from now.
Me?
We're talking like...
Me?
Yeah, you're
not you.
That must have been a
was
difficult time for you with the beard and everything.
That's prog. That's prog, man. That's prog.
Very prog, where it's work. But no, I there was a lyric in there that really struck me in the song Precious Things, where there's a line in it that's basically, you know, so you can make me come, that doesn't make you Jesus. You know, and that is an incredibly powerful, like, for 1992, you know what I mean? So it's like, you can imagine being a young woman then and just being empowered by that, and that really excites me. And beyond all, the music is fucking killer. So yeah, it's right up there. Little Earth.
Yeah. Do you think that Tori Amos is prog of the 90s?
It depends on how you define it, really. I mean, anyone who's kind of taking a new look at a genre of music, or pushing something that is truly unique and their own unique voice in that, definitely. And I mean, particularly when it comes to her voice, and you can hear how much she takes after artists like Kate Bush and stuff like that. There's so much Kate in Tori's voice, and it's so you can tell where that influence has come from. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably get in trouble with the purists if I referred to what she did, but it definitely was progressive in its own way. Yeah.
For me, Tori Amos is Genesis of the 90s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I think you're gonna get in trouble for saying that too.
Yeah, for sure.
I have Thodoris for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I am the big guy that always protects him.
Oh, good. Well, you keep him on a leash, and you stop him from saying naughty things. Naughty things about Genesis.
Okay.
Good.
Jim, number 3.
Number 3. Okay. Speaking of Kate Bush, I'm going to go to the album. So this is the only reason I'm going in this order now. That was a good segue. The album "So" by Peter Gabriel. I grew up on that album. It was one of the ones that was in my house and spinning all the time. And it's again, just wall to wall. There is not a moment in that album where I find myself going like, I've heard this too much, I'm just going to skip this one at all. It is always a journey, and it's like this guy, and it's not fair. This guy, Peter, Uncle Peter, please love me. Peter, he has just such a masterful grasp of the craft of popular music. as well as all of the progressive stuff that he did earlier in his career. And it's like he found a voice in all of that, and yet, you know, the hits off of that album are wild. I mean, you look at In Your Eyes, it probably has one of my favorite pre-choruses ever. Even songs like Red Rain, and lyrically as well, just immaculate and really interesting and evocative the way that he writes stuff. And so I think lyrically, musically, the whole shebang, that was a big influence on me too, for that one. So yeah, a lot of reasons why that album's fantastic.
It's obvious for us that you are very inspired by Peter Gabriel, but there is a question here. Peter Gabriel with Peter Gabriel with Genesis, or Peter Gabriel as a solo artist?
Solo. Purely because, like, in my experience, like, I've never been the biggest old school prog head. You know what I mean? Like my flavor of that kind of 70s era progressive rock, it sort of starts and ends with Jethro Tull. You know, again, Jethro Tull was an artist that was sort of like a group that was in my upbringing, so it's sort of in my blood as well. But that's pretty much where it ends. So it's like, you know, if I had listened to more Genesis, my answer might be different. But for me, it's solo Peter all the way. No regret.
And so album is by far, for many journalists, the best album of Peter Gabriel.
For sure.
Yeah. And in your eyes is the most known single.
Yes,
definitely.
And it is one of the greatest albums of the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just beautiful. You know, there's a reason why "Don't Give Up" was one of the cover songs we chose for Rise Radiant. Not least of which because of Lindsay and her incredible voice. So is on my list. Bam, there it is.
Yeah. I think that in Caligula's Horse music, there are too much vocal lines and backing vocals that remind me, that, in a good way, of course, of Peter Gabriel and his taste of orchestration in the vocals.
Yeah,
so
totally.
It's obvious for me. I was accepting that. I was.
No, I'm glad. Sam and I put a great deal of effort into all of that, the sort of choral aspects, all of the arrangements of the vocals, and it sort of, I always feel like it adds so much, but we always try and avoid as much as we can having it be the
Queen
focus, like the focal point of the song. Yeah, Queen is a great example. And again, like, Freddie Mercury is a goddamn genius and a remarkable vocalist and all of those things. And I'm trying to imagine what it would have been like, you know, back in, so easy now with all our digital stuff. But yeah, we didn't want it to be sort of the focal point of that. So it's kind of lush, but it's in the background a lot of the time.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to number
two. Next choice.
Number two. I'm going to go with an album which is, like, I'm going to say it's fairly recent. I mean, like, it's years old now, but time is escaping me. I'm falling down a chasm of time, and it's just passing faster and faster as it gets darker all around me, and my life is disappearing. Without further ado, this is the album Sparks by Imogen Heap. And again, interesting accidental segue. I would call Imogen Heap as like a modern female Peter Gabriel in terms of her approach to songwriting and layering and all of this very interesting stuff.
That's also new for us. That's also new for us. Yeah.
Her entire back catalogue is fantastic. I would say that Sparks is a really good place to start because it's got, again, some incredible arrangements, some very interesting and varied songwriting. She's lyrically abstract. I wouldn't say she's like as different as someone like Tori Amos, who is just basically taking paint on a canvas and just giving you a broad perspective and vision of what she's kind of doing.
Like Kate Bush as well. Yeah.
Very much so. So with Imogen's stuff, I think the song "You Know Where to Find Me," which is the opening track from Sparks, is possibly one of my favorite songs ever. It's
down in the comments for the viewers. Down in the comments.
It's actually a song. I looked into this, and again, I could have. Maybe I dreamed this. I don't know. My brain is. But I think it was written from the perspective of the River Thames, where it's like she will just take a concept in the same way again as Peter Gabriel would with a song like Intruder or whatever. Like I'm writing from the perspective of this creepy dude. With this, it's like taking this non-corporeal person that is the river and just speaking to people as the river. And there are some absolutely goosebump moments throughout that song. So the whole album, great.
Jim, for those who are not such familiar with this album, can you please explain what is the style of this album?
It's
a pop
genre.
I'm gonna say it's in the realm of pop, but again, just like a lot of stuff that we as fans of like alternative and prog music might attribute to pop, I think it would still be a bit weird to people who have an ear for pop music. It's like in the same way as we were talking about slow violence earlier and stuff, and it's like that's definitely one of our more kind of traditional structure, kind of poppier sounding songs, but it's still bizarre to a pop listener's ear. In the same way as people talk about the most recent Leprous album being like pop, and again, it's quite simply not.
Of course not.
I would say that it's another female-fronted, a solo female artist, a lot of piano-driven stuff, and very varied. So if there's one thing that doesn't hit you in your heart while you're listening to one song, the next song might get you. So she's really prolific. And
like Peter Gabriel.
I saw her live, very much like Peter Gabriel as well. Yeah, I saw her live in Australia, and it was incredible. She's a real artist.
So Thodoris, one other album to hear.
For sure. And Jim, thank you for that. Thank you for that. Thank you for the information.
So if you ever need more like female artists,
okay. Dimitris and me, we are open-minded in music, so for sure we will listen to this album for sure.
I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear how little sort of modern prog I listen to day to day. But
we've noticed that.
Okay.
Well, if you didn't know before, you know now.
So
except from Leprous, as you've said.
Except from Leprous, but they're just lovely boys.
Right. That's a way to listen to music. To listen to good boys.
To good boys, and my shelf is now full of records of friends of mine that we toured with around Australia and people like that. It's like when I listen to people that I know, I always tell my daughter this when I'm listening. It's like, these are Daddy's friends. Daddy's John's. So she just thinks that they live around the corner.
Let's go to number one.
Number one. All right. Probably no surprise here, but number one is Grace by Jeff Buckley. Another hugely influential album on me, vocally, songwriting wise, just in terms of looking at someone's, again, artistry and just being in awe of what it is that they can conjure and what it is that they can capture. And aside from all of the amazing songwriting and influential stuff on that record, you just can't go past Jeff's vocal performance. It's insane. It's phenomenal. I mean, and it passes the test of time. You got so many vocalists that I know just put him right up on the list of influences because you can't beat that emotional delivery. So number one, great.
So we have also the number one in our next list, which is about the top singers.
Yes. I've got it written next to me, and his name's on it. I'm not going to lie to you. I tried not to have any crossover, but he's just something else, And I think I can't remember what the first time I listened to it, but the way that I describe my emotional connection to this album is that I have never had a time where I've listened to it in the, I'm going to say, dozens or more times that I've spun this across the years. There is never a time where I don't hit a point and go, Jesus Christ. Every listen, there's something where I hit and I just go like, Jeff, you son of a bitch. Like, there's a wow moment every time. It's always fresh. It's always incredible. And I think that's what makes it a timeless album, that the infinite repeats and still impressed and blown away by it.
That's amazing about the albums that we used to hear a lot in our childhood or younghood. When we hear something nowadays that we are 20-something,
We're all 20. You're correct.
I'm a bit older. I'm a bit older than both of you.
30. Yeah.
I'm in the 30s, yes.
It's amazing how you can discover things that you haven't heard before.
Sure.
And in grace, it happens all the time, of course.
Right. Yeah, I think that, that it's not just like picking up new things, because of course, like you're listening to it with fresh ears or whatever else, but it's just picking up stuff and realizing that there every time you listen to a particular song, it's put tears in your eyes.
And they are inside you forever.
Exactly. If you've heard a song 30 times and it hits that point and you're not emotionally numb to it, can you imagine? It's just amazing. So yeah, I've given some obsequious love to this album now, but yeah, it is genuinely incredible. It's one of my favorites of all time.
Okay. That's not new for us. Let's go to the next list.
Let's talk right now about singers. We need to know 5 singers that have influenced you, and of course your career. Not in the particular order. Okay, you can name however you want. Yes.
Yeah, I plan to.
Okay.
It's funny. I was hard putting down 5. So there are so many more that I could have gone to, and so many friends that I have that are so incredible. But I landed on 5. And if I don't include Jeff Buckley, I could probably slip one of them in. I've given enough love to Jeff.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Think about that. The first one that I'm going to say is you would have heard her sing on the cover of Don't Give Up, Lindsay Ward from Exploring Birdsong, whose most recent work, which is The Thing with Feathers. I'm really bad with titles. And like some songs, I don't even know the name. Like songs that I love, I don't know the name on because I'll chuck a record on and just listen front to back. And so like, why would I know the name of the song? Lindsay, I first heard Lindsay sing when she and the lads did an a cappella arrangement of Songs for No One after In Contact's release, and tagged the band in it and tagged me in Instagram or Facebook or whatever. And I went and checked it out, and my jaw just hit the floor. It's just this incredible sound. And so I went, oh hell, I got to check this band out now. And they had like a couple of demos from an EP up, and it just hit me for 6. Just absolutely amazing vocals, and just one of those things where she's this small and small English girl, and this sound is coming out of her that is just this immense. And because of what I prize in a singer, I think the most is an emotional quality, something that you might not be able to measure or put your finger on. And there is such a passion in her voice that makes me feel like I should be hanging on every word because she's clearly saying something important. It's like when you hear something, you're just like, oh shit, I got to listen to that. It's like hearing a loudspeaker on in the street, and they're like giving, oh no, I missed that. I got to hear that important news. And it's like such an urgency and an earnestness in her voice that I absolutely love. So yeah, Lindsay Ward, check it out. Exploring Birdsong, absolutely incredible.
Another new for us today.
Another new, yeah. Thank you one more time.
The song "The River" is one you should
do. Down in the comments.
Okay.
Down in the river and in the comments.
So,
yeah, of course.
Number 4.
Number 4. I'm going to go to Arnaud Dan. And my horrific Australian accent is destroying that name. I'm sure it's closer to like Arnaud or something like that, but I'm just like, Arnaud, yeah. Absolutely.
Agent Fresco.
Such a band. Such an incredible band. And a band with, again, a unique voice. You listen to that stuff and there's hooky choruses, there's all this stuff in there that has like I guess what people like us would call like a pop aesthetic to it. But it's so bizarre and angular and jarring sometimes, but so full of smooth emotion. And I think, I've said this recently, but I think it's important to repeat that it's like, particularly as an Australian male, we have a lot of, I have a lot of trouble sort of expressing myself and my feelings honestly, and putting myself out there. Like, I'm very cautious about that sort of stuff. And you know, I'm an artist. I've been doing this for a long time, and even now I'm still kind of nervous about that stuff, right? So I was avoiding, or at least fearful of, using the sort of falsetto higher elements of my register, because of, you know, like maybe a subconscious fear that it's not masculine enough. And I remember listening to Destria by Agent Fresco, and I remember hearing that album, and it just something clicked, something went and changed in me after listening to that, and I had a lot more confidence in the approach to utilize that voice, that area of my voice, and it's something that, like, it's like one of my favorite parts of my voice. I don't know why it wasn't. It's fun to do. But yeah, so he was a big influence, really good singer.
That's why I adore slow violence, because you seem very familiar now to your falsetto position, and you have a mixed voice that you didn't have in your first albums, of course. Yeah. And I've discovered Agent Fresco in a parallel time with you guys. So it's unavoidable that I have Arnor and you in a kind of the same bubble.
Right, and you should tell him that. We'd love to tour with those guys, actually. I mean, if we could get them out to Australia, that'd be amazing. You know, when all of this madness subsides, and we're all allowed to see each other again.
We'll come back to this later. After your top list. Let's go to number 3.
Number 3, yes.
Joe Duplantier from Gojira. This is something a little bit different from what I've been talking about.
Yes, totally different.
Familiar with, totally same with Tori Amos, of course.
Yeah, totally,
It's basically a parallel. Do I need to go on? No, it's funny, actually, because I was quite late to the game with Gojira. I totally missed the boat. And a few years ago, Will Hunter, who is our tour manager and lighting guy throughout Australia, and the inspiration for Will's song from In Contact, he just kept pushing me. He's just like, man, you just have to persevere. You got to go check it out. You got to go listen. And I started with Magma, and that was a really approachable album to them. And then I went back and found From After Sirius, and it was like just incredible. But I think that the reason he's on my list is because I have never heard a voice, clean or dirty, or however you want to approach singing, that is more masculine than Joe Duplantier. It's like concentrated masculinity, and it was made concrete when I watched a video of them playing live in Hellfest like a bunch of years back, and they were playing I think Silvera or one of the singles from Magma, and I'm just watching his performance of that live, and just how effortlessly intense it was, and like how his focus on it as well, and just being right there in the moment, and you could just feel how his intent of that performance. And yeah, I don't think I've heard anything quite as masculine as that. I mean, there are bands with screamers and stuff like that that have a high level of intensity or whatever else, but there's something about Joe's voice that just like
it's his chest voice. His chest voice is amazing.
Well, it feels like it comes out of his feet. You know what I mean? It's like he's standing there and conjuring this shit out of the earth. Like it's just screaming at you from the void, and I love it.
We can call him the dark mirror of Arnor.
Yeah, well, there you go. That actually, From all reports as well, he's kind of a sweet dude, which makes it all the better.
That's amazing.
So I don't think a list like this on a channel like this with people like this would be complete if we didn't say Devin Townsend in here somewhere.
Of course.
No, I like, and again, if you want to talk influential, go hit me.
Sorry, Jim. Here is Empath.
Aha, nice. Beautiful. I think I have that on vinyl as well. You know, like he's such a, not just a like prolific, I mean insane, and when I say prolific, I mean it's mad. A guy that has just been smashing music out for years and years, but hugely influential on me as well. I'm not sure if you'd be able to hear that really in Seahorse's stuff, but it's just everything that he's done has hit me in a very real way. At very important times in my life as well. So I have not only just a musical attachment to it, but a nostalgic attachment where you hear, like I hear anything off Terrier or Syncestra, for example, and that like takes me back to a very specific time in my life. Not a great time, actually, but a time nonetheless. And we were fortunate enough to play on the same day as he played in Barcelona for BeProg, my friend festival, when it was still happening. And I remember that they had this gear malfunction where they were meant to be playing Ocean Machine in full, and the main piece of gear, I think it was like a laptop or something, they were running everything off, died and wasn't functioning.
Wow!
And this is not on my, because it's a spooky moment, and you can find this on YouTube if you look for it. I don't know where, but he did. It's 15 minutes of improv stand-up. Just really? to tide it over. Everyone else was sorting it out behind him, and he just kept going. He took requests for covers. He told jokes. He shared anecdotes. He did that thing that personally I aspire to do for like 10, 15 minutes. It was insane. And I was so entertained that after the set, I didn't feel like anything had gone wrong. You know, I didn't feel like it was, oh, geez, what an awkward situation, because he's a walking ball of incredible charisma. And so I got a lot of respect and a lot of for him, both as a performer and as a songwriter as well.
That's an amazing charisma. That's an amazing charisma he has, because we know that he is a closed person, of course. But when he's on stage, he's someone else. And he managed to do things that are amazing with the audience, and that's his charisma, of course.
No, I absolutely feel that, and it's super relatable too, obviously, because you know, when I honestly feel most at home when we're up on stage in front of people, and like when I'm off stage, I'm genuinely more awkward and make comments that divide the room sometimes. They not everything goes well.
You don't seem awkward, to tell you the truth. You seem a very friendly person.
Thank you. I'm very good at faking it.
No, you're welcome.
You are an artist. You are an artist.
Yeah, you're an artist. So, Jim,
lying very well for so long.
So
I can't think off the top of my head a replacement for Jeff Buckley. It sucks. It really sucks. No, you know what? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to say a good mate of mine from Melbourne. Plays in a band called Circles. Here you go. I'm wearing a Circles hoodie right now.
Oh, we know them.
The last one. Yeah, nice. Ben Rector is the singer, and there is nothing negative I have to say about this man, both musically and personally. He is like, we toured with them in Europe in 2018. I don't know. Time is meaningless now.
Yeah, of course.
In 2018, we shared a bus for a month, and I was absolutely blown away at how every single night it would be a flawless performance. It would be dead on, and the man has absolutely no semblance of ego at all. There is no rock star BS with Ben Rector. There's none, because I'm a precious little princess, and I like, you know,
Frozen.
Yes.
I try and let it go, but I can't. And but whereas Ben is just super easygoing, and honestly, if you've heard him sing in a live context, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Like, his stuff on the record is fantastic, but when you see him live and you realize that none of that is studio magic, none of it is pretend, the guy is an absolute phenomenon, and I want to give him hugs all the time.
Okay,
like
you can do.
Like a princess.
Yeah, like a princess, yes.
He can be my Disney prince any day of the week. I don't care.
Okay. That's good to know. That's our trailer of the show. That's the trailer of the show.
Oh no.
Yeah. So now that we're over with the difficult part of the show, let's go nowadays. Caligula's Horse have released a new album, Rise Radiant, as we've said before. but there are difficult times for the promo of the album. We have to ask you, what happens in a band nowadays when it has a new album like that, and it's obvious that it has to be promoted?
Mm-hmm.
How? What's the solution in that?
There's obviously been a huge number of different things that people have tried. You've seen a lot of bands doing the live stream performances. That's like some of them actually in empty venues to try and capture that thing. For us, it's tricky. And I have to say that despite everything, I'm so grateful to be able to live in the age that we live in where, you know, my career isn't over because of this. You know, like the album still sold well, better than any album that we have before. People are still engaging with it on like streaming services and things like that. People are engaging and communicating with us. You know, it's not like the old days where it's like if a band's not touring or not out there, they basically just don't exist. You know, you've listened to their music and then, oh, wow, they're coming to town. Amazing. So I'm very grateful for that. Of course, like the impact of not being able to tour on it,
Mm-hmm.
not just on the band's sort of ability to continue doing, but also from because I'm a deeply troubled person, and I think like in between tours and stuff when I'm not doing that, I don't feel as valid as I do when I'm on tour. I don't feel like I have a place, you know. So right now I'm personally being suspended between like my meaning, you know. I'm sort of somewhere in between, you know. I'm looking for a place to be. So that has unsettled me personally a great deal. The other part is that we didn't get to tour the United States, and that's just the sadness of having your sort of like juvenile adolescent dreams kind of shattered in front of you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next year.
Yeah. So that's basically it. But I think in terms of the impact that it's had on the band, we are very lucky that it hasn't bankrupted us, and we're very, very lucky that none of us have got sick and our families haven't got sick. I think that's the most important.
Of course, for sure.
Now that you've talked about family, I have to ask you, as a fairly new father, as you are, because I am one too.
Yeah.
How difficult it is to manage the two positions in your life? This one of the father and this one of the lead singer of I will not say a newcomer band, of course, because we know so many years the existence of Caligulashorse. But this revival, this renewal of the band, how can you manage to do both stuff?
It's hard. It's interesting though where the two sort of skill sets cross over, because like I said, on stage, I talk a lot of shit, and that's like 90% of what I do with my daughter.
Yeah.
And to her credit, she's sort of jumping right on that improv train now, where, you know, like I'll offer her a coffee, and she'll be like, "Yep, 2 sugars, thanks, Dad," and just ready to go with the improv. So the rest of the time, I am extremely lucky again to have in-laws, grandparents of Honora's, that Honora's my daughter's name, that are so eager to come and take care of her and come and take the pressure off when I go on tour and stuff like that, because that's obviously very challenging in terms of timing. I think the other big challenge really just because everyone talks about the post-tour blues. You know, you come back from tour and immediately have that kind of like a form of whiplash, I guess, from you existing at a certain level of stimulus, and then that stimulus comes back to normal. It's especially bizarre when you come back and immediately are thrown into changing nappies.
For sure.
I remember very clearly our first European tour in 2015 and coming home and just being like, what is this? Like, what is going on? So, yeah, pretty challenging. But again, I find myself in a very fortunate position with that.
Great one.
Okay.
So, a final question for you. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yes, for sure.
It was an honor, of course.
Chat. Thank you, guys.
We really love you as a guy, as a princess, or as a singer. In all the ways. Thank you so much. Let's talk for a final question, more general. Do you think that this is the time of the prog?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I think that there is a vitality to a lot of new acts now coming out of the 2010s, because there were some distinct movements in progressive music throughout the 2010s that brought music that might be a little more from left field into the limelight, even with sort of like bands that incorporated sort of gent, I guess, aspects to their stuff. You can talk about bands like Periphery is a really good example. It's like there are a lot of genre crossovers in what they do that make their stuff appealing to a broader group of people than just people who listen to prog music. And I think bands like that have been incredible in paving the way and creating a taste for music that's a little bit abnormal, deviant, if you will. And I think that the sort of 2020s is going to be a really interesting time. I think that the road has been paved and the doors are open for a lot of young bands to come and develop their own sound. I think if there's one band that's quite young and sort of on their first release that you should check out, it's a band that we were going to tour the US with from Melbourne called Ebonivory. A bunch of young dudes and incredible talents. Each and every one of them is phenomenal.
Down in the comments?
The song "Explosions After Dark" is definitely one to check out, and they're writing so much better music than I did when I was their age. It's a little bit not fair. It's a little bit not fair, but it's very good, and you should definitely check it out.
Of course. So, Thodori, we have to listen to too many stuff after the conversation.
Yes. Okay, for sure. But that's nice. Yeah. But that's nice. That's nice. Very nice.
Yeah, of course.
So, Jim, thank you very, very much for sharing your time with us. It was a great pleasure.
Not very much, but
yeah. Without the quotation.
No, thank you guys. This is a really fun chat. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your music and for persona, of course, as well.
Of course. Have a great day ahead.
Greetings to your daughter.
Yes.
From
I'll
Greece.
say hi. Yeah.
Bye-bye. Goodbye.